Number 13 is an accented snare drum. So you got that bird nose or like an arrow above the note. So that tells you it's an accent. An accent is not like mine Finnish accent, but it's more like an accent as in it's played louder. So accent means whoever wrote that beat or that song wants you to play that note louder to stand out. And as an opposite note, we have a snare drum here in brackets, which means a ghost note. It means that note is played quietly. So here you have two different dynamic approaches to playing the snare drum. You have the accent loud and ghost note quiet. Number 15 is a stick across. To produce this sound, you have to place the back end of your stick about an inch away from the rim of the snare drum, and then place the rest of the stick on top of the rim, and then you have to lift it up and then bring it back down, obviously with a slight bit of force to get the sound. And also the fingers, because obviously you can't have them under the stick, fan out apart from mostly your thumb and first finger, which grip the stick. And then when you bring the stick down, you'll cover the drum head so you don't get lots of ring from the drum head. So you get nice, clicky sound. This is called stick across or cross stick. So this particular sound, I recommend you try to practice and try to find that consistency of the sound so it sounds very similar every time. With the electronic drum kit, this sound quite often comes from just hitting the rim of the snare drum with the side of the stick, or you can alternatively try to do something similar. But if your pad is not the same size as normal snare drum, which is the most common thing, so it's a little bit smaller, then you might want to bring that back end of the stick over the snare drum rim. The butt of the stick and the tip of the stick are both over the rim to achieve this on an electronic drum kit. Number 16 is a buzz roll. It's a drum roll on a snare drum where we're allowing the sticks to bounce. Sounds like this. And the notation looks like obviously like this. Number 17. So this is our second kick drum. You might see this on a metal songs where you need two different bass drums to achieve very fast bass drum lines. Number 18 is a floor tom rim. So some songs you might want to produce a different kind of sound. It's a very different tone. You still get a little bit of the frame of the drum ringing a little bit, but instead of having the floor tom, the really low note, you get a high top end note with the low end ring, and that's the rim of the floor tom. And it's obviously positioned in the same space as floor tom would be, but with an X this time. Number 19 is quite often cowbell. As we don't really that often play the bell of hi-hat. Again, that does happen. In certain circumstances, you might play the bell of the hi-hat. But this is a cowbell sign, so get used to it, it will happen. Quite often you hear cowbells like in the countings of these videos or exercises. As a click, I've used a lot of cowbells because it cuts through very well. Number 20 is a hi-hat with foot, but this time it's splash technique, which means you're hitting the top cymbal down with your foot. But instead of leaving it down, you're letting it ring. And here's an example of what this sounds like. And this is called the splash technique for hi-hat. Next, we have a full rudiment. So number 21 is Flam. And here's an example of what this sounds like. It's worth noticing that these two notes don't happen exactly the same time. The Flam note leads into the main note. So the Flam note happens just before the beat. You can see there's one very small note and then it's tied to a bigger note. So this is a Flam. Same goes with number 22. This is our drag. Again, there will be another video because drag, it is its own rudiment, like Flam. So this is what drag looks like. And here's an example of what this sounds like. So here again, those two quiet notes happen before the main note. They set up the note like in Flam. Now these next two notes, number 23 and 24, are snare drums, and each one of these slashes across the stem of the note tells you that it's doubled. So when you see number 23, instead of playing one note, you're playing two. Number 24, instead of playing one note, you're playing four. So each stem slices that note into half. Same as in buzz roll, split into multiple different notes. So instead of writing all those individual notes out, you can just say, okay, so in this instance, you want to hear two here, or four, or you want to hear a buzzing sound. Okay, so that covers our basic notation of the drums, and hopefully that's helpful. And obviously on the other videos, when I'm talking about particular sounds, I will bring it up again, but this is more like a overall explanation what kind of sounds you have, and it gives you an idea that how many different sounds you can produce from a drum kit. There is a lot more. So, and with the electronics drum kit, obviously you can access to a lot of different sounds that aren't even drum sounds. So you can sample you can sample a farm and have chickens on a hi-hat and cows on a snare drum and pigs on a bass drum if you want, or horses on a tom-tom, and whatever you want really. The sky's the limit on that, but or you might have a larger selection of different sounds. But this is the basic map of where you're working from when you're building up beats or songs. So this is really good to get your head around.